we are live. Thank you, Hugo, for that. I mean, Soldra, excuse me.
Yeah.
So, we are live. I'm going to be your host for China Talk for Oscar, and of course, LPL Shoutcaster. Next to me is going to be Ash Ketchum, otherwise known as Soldra. He's going to be representing Paravine.com. Underneath me is going to be Kelsey Moser, representing On Gamers, also writes for LOL Esports. And then next to her is going to be Michael Drexen, Laylor, representing Esports Heaven. Yeah, how do you like that one?
Okay.
he's
So,
nice.
I'm happy to be back. Thank you all for welcoming me back to the panel after my self-imposed exile in order to find myself. I went on an island and traded for 2 days. I went my hyperbolic pain
2 days.
He fasted for 30 days in the desert.
Now I'm back and I have more Dota 7 trash talk to spit out than ever before. So.
Oh wow.
I hope your body is ready.
So the Riot reform camp didn't work for you?
Yeah, I actually, they made me slave away in the gulag.
But down to your thing a little bit. You're a little intense right now. Let's start with our first topic. So first things first. I'm sorry, Hewitt, did I cut off your intro speech?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really sorry. Starport Aurora Club versus Samsung White. So let's just over. Obviously, this was a one-decided. I'm going to make the statement: stomp in favor of Samsung White. Does everyone agree with this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, but it was more entertaining.
It was more.
Yeah, it was
That's
much more entertaining than last year. Holy shit.
Let's break it down a little bit and kind of some of the key components. Specifically, I wanted to talk about the double teleport. I believe they ran double teleport for 2 games in a row. The first game in which they got manhandled because of the double teleport, and I think like the second game. But I want to kind of like walk through kind of the thought process behind that, because I thought it was actually really brilliant to run double teleport against Samsung White, especially when they had a Jace mid who has no kill potential early because they're going to be building a tier. But let you guys go with this. Come on, double teleport, give it to me. What did you guys think?
I don't even remember the game. I'll let you guys talk about this because.
Oh my goodness.
Honestly,
so much time to prepare.
It wasn't that big of a deal to me. So.
The double teleport. I'm trying to remember if that was the Remus game or not. That's the only thing I can't remember.
It was the Orianna Rise game. And
okay, right.
He played it twice. He played, I think, at both times with the Orianna.
Okay, right. I actually think that the idea itself wasn't too bad. It's just that Samsung White knew how to punish their lack of defensive or offensive cooldown. And so they would trade, like the trades in lane were a lot more intense at the side of Samsung White, and it got to the point where Starhorn couldn't even like utilize the double teleport because they were so far behind that it became irrelevant.
Am I still muted?
Nope, you're good now.
No, you're good.
Fine.
Okay. So the thing I liked about double teleport, not so much the first game, but the third game where they also had Remus, is because Starhorn pretty much knew that they were going to get out-rotated, so the teleport wasn't for lanes or anything, it was for late game. Like, the idea, and this especially showed in the first game because they picked that super late game composition, was that they were, so they were going to stall out and not deal with them until the very late game, and then whenever Samsung White moved to an objective, they could, in theory, teleport to it and catch up because they assumed that they would be out of position. This is my theory on the double teleport.
They also prioritized it a lot in like taking things like Pantheon jungle, like prioritizing map movements not only through like the double teleport, but also with like their AoE like gap closers.
Get to with the Rammus. I was going to get to with the Rammus because Rammus obviously goes really fast, and so he has up to
Got your analysis.
Yeah, I mean that's what they want, is they want to be able to get where they need to go fast because they assume that they'll be reacting and that they'll have to get to where Samsung White is and perhaps catch them off guard because they're just suddenly there.
So why didn't this work for them? Like, because in theory we're saying that it should work for them because, you know, Samsung White is a very fast-paced team, they're a very rotation-based team. The thing that how I like to describe Samsung White is I think of them as the Korean strategy in general, I'm not going to even put this just to Samsung White, at least from my observation, is just about gathering information. They are very good at gathering information, and they're even better at instantaneously punishing and maximizing their effectiveness when they punish information. So, like, if we talk about that first game where Mata and Dandy went through the jungle at, like, 4 minutes in the game and placed, like, 17 million wards and, like, lit up Insect's jungle, and then instantaneously, as soon as they had any sort of information from those wards, they, like, punished it. So why did this go wrong? Like, if this was about avoiding that information, like, give it to me, like, bullet point. What went wrong? Was it player skill?
I will give it to you if you stop talking.
No.
It has to do with I kind of disagree with you on it. It's just about like getting information, because they also know where they're constantly assessing where they have their own strengths, and they're looking for information in those specific areas. So they'll put wards down if in a lane swap situation. They'll put the wards down in the enemy jungle where their own duo lane is, things like that. So they're thinking about where they're strong. When they had their power spike, like in the second game, they had 5 team members who got this huge buff suddenly at level 6 because they had all those really good ultimates for fighting, and then much more so than Royal Club, and that's when they picked the fight. Like, when every one of them had level 6 is when they picked the fight. So, yeah, it's kind of just, they're better at assessing their own strengths and weaknesses in terms of their composition and knowing where they need to go and where they need to find their information.
The fact of the matter is, I think, is that if you're in the double TP strat, like, it's about mobility, right? And so you're giving up, like, instant early game firepower, which is theoretically the ignite or the exhaust, in order to gain map control. But then the Starhorn Royal Club didn't even really get any map control, right? They didn't even really get that many picks in their early game. Like, they weren't looking at anything. They were just laning, and it wasn't really that impressive. And especially when, the enemy side of the jungle, your own side of the jungle is warded around, so Insect can't really do anything. So it was just pretty bad. Honestly, we're talking about, like, a lot of, like, complex stuff on why they did the double teleport. It's for, like, an early game boost. Like, it's for.
I don't think it's for the early game.
Sorry, that's not what I meant. It's for in my mind, it's to look to catch people out, specifically in the mid game, and they didn't do any catching out. So, like.
And part of it was they just, like, had really bad ward coverage. So what are you supposed to TP to? Like,
they just played bad. Like, I don't know why. We don't need to overcomplicate it. It's just Starhorn Royal Club was shit, and Samsung White played well.
Yeah, but, like, also the fact the other problem is that, like, like Kelsey said, if you're not going to have proper ward coverage, and it's senseless to run that anyway, and then you're just putting yourself behind against a really strong early game team. Like, there's no way. Like, Corrin needed a defensive summoner or an offensive summoner to go, like, to even stand a chance against Pawn in that set, and I don't know. I don't like it just because I don't think they were able to hold off well enough during laning phase to even utilize or get any kind of map control for the double teleport to work out. Like, it was kind of a cute gimmick, but, like, I think going 2 late game champions, like, that need to wait to scale against a team that punishes that really early isn't necessarily the answer. Like, I think it's tunneling too hard on the fact that if we get to late, we can win because their early is so strong. But then it just emphasized their early game because of the handicap. At least that's how I feel.
Also, there was nothing to TP too, if you think about it. There
was actually a really brilliant play that almost worked out for them. And what I'm talking about is the first game obviously was, like, probably as close to perfect League of Legends as a team has really gotten as far as, like, vision control. And if you think about the dive top lane, the game was already over as soon as that initial first ward caught Starhorn Royal Club out, and then Samsung White collapsed on them. But if we think back to the top dive, where Colo was being dove top by 3 players, he died, and then Corrin teleported, landed, and then instantly died. That was pretty much game for Starhorn Royal Club. But the brilliance of that is it almost worked out. So you have to think. Cola, when he was being dove by Dandy, who was on Jarvan, and Looper, who was on Maokai, he actually flashed the flag and drag, so they didn't get to chain CC onto him, and the teleport was already coming down at that point, and Corrin was coming with Shockwave, and Cola was still, like, over half health. What killed them was the fact that they had no location on Pawn, and Pawn came out of nowhere and a shock blast hit them, and it pretty much deleted Cola. If Pawn had not made the rotation, the teleport would have come down in time because Cola would have still been alive, and he got an amazing shockwave off on 2 people, but it was that moment where Samsung White perfectly juggled tower aggro with 3 people. But, like, in retrospect, that was almost brilliant. That almost turned the game. And when I think about the teleport, obviously it's about out-rotating, but it's very much Samsung White loves to dive. And now they have instantaneously 2 people who can teleport to towers, because you guys are saying, they don't have any wards to teleport to. No, it was about defending against the dive, and it almost worked for them.
I would say that if we played that, like, I actually remember that. If we played that situation out, like, 10 out of 10 times, Samsung White would succeed that situation like 10 out of 10 times. Like, there was nothing lucky about that. Like, they
obviously was no luck, but they had to perfectly juggle aggro to do that. Like, all 3 of them got out with, like, under 10% HP. It was beautifully played by Samsung White.
So
there was a brilliant moment on, yes, this is why they're running the double TP. And if Pawn hadn't made a perfect rotation to follow, Dandy and Looper would have been screwed. It was a beautiful shockwave, but again, it was the shock blast burst damage that took Cola out of that. They dove a Rise. They dove a Rise with a teleporting Orianna with a shockwave on the wave.
Yeah, I think in execution and practice it didn't work as well as they'd hoped, but like it got really close. But again, like I almost feel like they got away with 10% HP because they were behind, so that they didn't have the damage to like output that much to actually get the landing blows. Which is why like I don't know, it's easy to say like this could have happened if they were like this much more ahead or this much more damage was dealt, and it's probably right. Like it was a good idea, but I don't know. I'm
just bringing in the extra element because everyone's saying it's about making rotations. I think it's about the dive.
I think the thing is, like, Royal Club, like, understood that they couldn't win just, like, with a standard asset of play. Or just a standard style of play, sorry. So, like, yeah, it was kind of smart to try to bring in something, like, kind of gimmicky, like double teleport. I mean, that's not really too gimmicky, but in the context of Worlds, it was the first time it was used, so...
It was something like...
I'll say that I think
Did Fnatic use it this Worlds?
Not this Worlds, no, but that's, like,
yeah,
what Fnatic used to be
that's what I mean.
for.
Oh, don't
We're not talking about
Leona
era
We're not talking about fucking Yellowstar, okay? Whoop this shit. Motherfucker.
I think,
And Leona only.
The thing is, though, like, the reason why double teleport is, like, weird is because, you know, you snowball, like, even if you snowball off of that first dragon. So if I had a choice, and even if I was going to lose anyways, I would bring all the power that I can to that first dragon fight, because if you lose that dragon fight, then you're going to get snowballed anyways. Because it's like the meta is all around the dragon.
Blue, like, if you think about Samsung,
no, Samsung Blue plays around the second dragon. There's a difference.
Yeah, but these
Samsung
teams
Blue
historically
plays around.
let these early contestable objectives like early dragons go, and then they've still had a history of beating teams like Samsung White or beating teams like Starhorn Royal Club. You know what I'm saying? What are you saying, Kelsey?
That's before they bought the Dragon Gold. Like that's what screwed over Samsung Blue.
Saying,
and
Kelsey?
in theory, Edward Gaming is like in theory, Edward Gaming, because Edward Gaming just like played like shit anyway. But that's what kind of screwed them over this tournament, is because like Dragon Gold used to be not that good. So strategies like Samsung Blues and strategies like Edward Gaming, where you could just stall out and then win team fights, worked really well. But with the Dragon Gold increasing, you snowball out of control off that first dragon, and it's really good. So it's
it's clear, like, that's more entertaining, right? It's way more entertaining to watch fucking people contest dragon than like Ziggs throw bombs over and over again. That's that's what Riot. I mean, that's the direction that Riot wants to take the game, and I'm all for it. I think we're going to see even more of this in Season 5. Like, I've seen some of the Season 5 like predictions or like the changes or whatever, like whatever's on like surrender@20.net or something like that. And I think we're going to see even more team fighting, especially in lane and around dragon, like because apparently the dragon gives like power ups and stuff like that, right? Which is fucking stupid. But
that's what
we're going to see more team fighting.
That said, though, I didn't mind the double TP, and I didn't mind that much Starhorn Royal Club's early composition in the first game. Like, obviously, this is, in theory, how Samsung White has been beaten in the past. They just, like, have these strong team fighting compositions that they play against, and Samsung White, like, screws up. And they're able to deal with that. They just got snowballed on really, really hard, and they didn't have enough to tide them over. And part of that is forward control, and part of that is the fact that they didn't have an offensive summoner, and part of that is that they had all late game picks for the most part. And I think the thing I liked about all three of the first games for Starhorn Royal Club is that they had a plan. They had a very good idea with what their composition was, and they didn't really get outpicked, and they had an idea of how to use like their picks and where they wanted to go around the map. They just didn't execute at all. Like, their execution was awful.
I mean,
and they couldn't like pressure bottom lane against Twitch, because even though in theory Tristana should do well early against a Twitch, because Zero gave up first blood like within 1 minute, so they were automatically behind. They also couldn't pressure bottom lane because top lane was winning and they had the teleport advantage there. And then Corn was constantly pushed on, so that was pretty much it. Yep.
I want to talk about, because I like how you did.
Too long didn't read. Starhorn Royal Club sucks.
I wanted to talk specifically because Kelsey like mentioned like the first 3 games, and then we come to game 4. which was pretty much even for, I think the consensus was that game was even for about like 10 minutes, and then there was that awful tower dive with the Pantheon ultimate that pretty much sealed the deal.
Oh god.
Okay,
yeah.
so here's the question.
So
now.
terrible.
Kha'Zix was available in both the Rammus game and the Pantheon game. Why did Insect prioritize Pantheon and Rammus over taking the Kha'Zix, which he has had, you know, like that's one of his staple champions as far as like his season in LPL. He plays Rengar, he plays Kha'Zix, he plays Lee Sin. Like, why are we suddenly like turning this direction? Like, what do you guys think happened there?
Honestly, I think it might be that like Starhorn kind of realized that I think the ramp up time for Kha'Zix is a little bit too long, and so you can if you pick like at least Lee Sin or J4 against a Kha'Zix in that early team fight, then you're automatically going to lose just because those three champions bring so much more to the table. I don't know. I didn't really agree. Like, you know, obviously like Insect showed us some like cool shit. Like the Fiddlesticks was like fucking awesome, right? His first Pantheon game was like not bad, but it's just.
I think that is actually kind of true. Like, yeah, Kha'Zix isn't terrible early, but I think like they were thinking, okay, we need to have like the most early strength possible. Like that's the only thing that makes sense to me, especially with the Rammus pick because it was picked
late.
Yeah, I know I know it was confusing because like especially the Rammus pick because I think that was last picked right on their side and they already locked in double AP on White or no they didn't Singe was last pick, right? Okay, so. Yeah, that was kind of confusing. For
me, it made perfect sense with what they wanted to do.
I mean, like, what I noticed is that Insect was, like, zoning out people so they could take early towers top lane, if I remember the game correctly. So that might have been part of it, is, like, proxying a little bit and, like, just kind of fending people off the wave, because you can't really do that with Kha'Zix, but I don't know. I still think Kha'Zix would have been the better option in both those situations, but I think, like, again, it was Starhorn trying to do something gimmicky because they thought they couldn't win Standard. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
For me, the Rammus made perfect sense. Like, I was following the Rammus because they had the double TP, and they wanted to execute that again. They wanted to have, like, the really fast map movements. Rammus makes perfect sense there. And, of course, like, Samsung's Whites, and the reason why they waited so long to pick it is because Samsung's Whites picks didn't really counter the Rammus. Like, they didn't have a Janna, they had a Thresh. They had a bunch of other stuff that Rammus can still get up to, can still get close to. In the fourth game, I think they probably wanted to pick Rammus again because they had success with it, and Samsung White knew it, so they picked a lot of stuff that Rammus can't really get to. Like, they had a Janna. I think they had a couple other things.
They had Corki and Cass, too, yeah.
Corki, Janna, like, Kassadin, Ori, and Rengar.
Kassadin that were considerably more mobile, that are, like, a lot harder for Rammus to pin down. So they said, so he was like, oh, I don't know, I'll pick a fucking Pantheon, but the problem is that, like, they didn't have any engage to keep people into Pantheon's ult radius when Pantheon would come down, so that wasn't very useful in theory. And of course he telegraphed it like really hard, so Dandy knew where he was going to be.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that like Pantheon is hard for any team to use. Like the only people who use Pantheon, like I think like Pantheon is like the gatekeeper almost, because if you're like if you looked at like, for example, the GPL, right? There were a ton of GPL teams that used Pantheon even after he left the FOTM because like that engage is so strong, and if teams aren't good at like juggling, like instantly communicating like where they need to go, what they need to be, reacting to that champion, then you're kind of destroyed. We saw in the LPL as well. I think the jungler for World Elite Academy, not Mickey. Yes, no, not Soest, the other guy. Who else played? The Korean.
It's Love.
I'm thinking. Never mind.
No, it's the World Elite Academy jungler. I'm thinking.
World Elite Academy only had Soest.
No, they had one other guy.
No, they had Soest and Mickey played like one.
Yeah,
game.
Mickey played one jungle game.
Oh yeah, so when So when Mickey played a Pantheon game, I'm pretty sure, and that was like pretty effective, I thought. So like, I think it's like literally it's like a barrier for like shitty teams. It's like good against shitty teams, but against like teams that know how to like juggle that kind of pressure, it's just not really a strong pick.
And like the thing is, I feel like the Rammus was justified just because like at least a little more than the Pantheon, just because Twitch was early picked, and yeah, you can't really do much when you're taunted as Twitch, and there's not too much to get away from that unless you're like really really crafty with your stealthy positioning. But like the Pantheon like really made no sense because they were going for late. Like I understand they wanted to like have early game pressure or whatever, but you can still commit to those same dives as Kha'Zix and like theoretically it plays out the same way. I mean, yeah, you have less like early game damage for like the level 2 to 3 ganks or whatever. Well, 3 to I should say like 3 to 6 ganks, but yeah, I don't know. It was dumb.
Do a lot more damage than most junglers, like just because Kha'Zix does so much damage compared to other junglers. Period.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. It's not a big enough difference for that pick to have been justifiable.
So for me, I would have rather they had Kha'Zix in Game 4, even though I understood Rammus in Game 3. So.
I still think that Kha'Zix would have been a better pick than Rammus.
And also, it's hard to gauge like how well Royal Club played out their strategy in Game 3, just because White did the whole like no fucking safe wave clear thing again. Like I didn't understand that.
Yeah, but at the same time, like Samsung White. If Samsung White doesn't get ahead early, that's much harder for them to win traditionally too.
I honestly feel like.
Well, I know. In theory, like if you don't get ahead, yeah, I know. I know. Okay, I pretty much said that if you don't get ahead, you'll win. Like obviously, but they don't.
Yeah,
like,
no, I know what you're talking about.
I've been polluted by EDG, who never gets ahead and still like wins every.
Still
game.
wins. Oh my god.
I honestly feel like Kesper like ran backstage and like, guys, this world championship is going too fast. I know that Looper wanted to play Singed again. Can you guys just for one game?
The fact of the matter is that we all knew that Starhorn Royal Club would get stomped. It was foretold. It was written. It was predestined.
I expected 3-0. Yeah.
I expected a 3. I honestly thought it would be a 3-0. I think they trolled like 3-1.
That's what I'm saying. I think that like the coach went back there and was like, "Can you make this a 3-2? Can you stall this out? Okay, 3-1. Okay, we'll take it."
It was very questionable composition for sure.
I expected 3-1. Like I knew why they picked how they did. Like they picked Singed because they were able to counter TSM's Maokai with it. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll just do the same thing. And except that this kind of didn't work out for them because their composition as a whole didn't make any sense. And they didn't really care. They were just YOLOing, but I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to mention before we kind of like move on past this set is I want to talk about Corn and Cola, because I feel like obviously no one here is saying that Corn and Cola were not like the most outclassed players, being in the finals, unless you guys want to like argue that right now.
They're bad.
Okay, but here's the thing.
And
I have one middle finger for Corn and my other middle finger for Cola. No. Please, Starhorn, get rid of these players. I don't care if it's their first season. Fuck those players. But that's the thing. So bad.
This is this is their first split that they've ever been in a professional league.
In the context of how they got in,
people will get mad if we don't call it professional.
Okay, well,
no, but I've seen them play in the LSPL. Cola was bad in the LSPL. Is my issue. Like there are so many other high talent.
Here's my argument for you, Kibo. There is no way in hell that Starhorn Royal Club would have made it to the finals if specifically Corn and Cola had not played to the best of their ability.
Yeah, and the best of their ability. Albeit good, but it wasn't great. Like
they went through both EDG and OMG and took a game off of Samsung White.
And
but Cole didn't do anything during those games.
What do you mean Cole didn't do anything? He flashed over wall and killed Name 1v1 to stall the Baron.
It was so simple. Like, but oh my god, I'm telling you, other top laners and mid laners could have done so much more for Starhorn Royal Club. If other top laners and mid laner was if Starhorn World Club had another top laner and a mid laner, and they trained them from the beginning of the season, like a high talent player, like Wayless or something like that, then they would have won. Then they could have won the World Championship. I guarantee you that. Like,
here's my thing with Cola.
The talent ceiling is so low on that team. Holy shit.
Here's my thing with Cola. Okay, is that like he got like all of his main champions nerfed this season. He started out playing like Jax and Shyvana sort of fell out of favor, and then Jax got pretty nerfed, and then he started playing Gragas, and then Gragas got nerfed, so he literally like had to start his champion pool from scratch. And let's talk about when Dade tried to do that at Worlds, and he got completely screwed over. So in that context, Cola did like a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, like if we're comparing them to like the people that are at top class in the world, they're pretty underwhelming. But given like where they came from, the amount of time they've had to participate in an actual professional league, even though it will argue that LSPL is professional as well.
I would take Amazing J
to get to the World Finals as someone that couldn't qualify for LSPL and someone with what, the 14th place team?
15th.
That's pretty.
15th. They were terrible.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy to go from in a half a year to go from that to the World Finals.
That's
fucking crazy.
That's literally taking West Rice on your team and making him go to the World Finals, like from your region. That's literally what happened.
Yeah, I think that alone. I mean, maybe it's just me being a little too obsessed with that narrative, because I know that, like, I know in the context of top class players in the world, yeah, they don't like stand a chance against others that are like top 5 in their positions. But just like given the fact that they got there off of those circumstances is absolutely ridiculous. It's like some random guy in Challenger solo queue almost, because we don't really have like an LSPL equivalent, because it's not like NACS or EUCS where it's just like, you know, the amateur league. It's like another professional league, and then there's amateur stuff under that. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of crazy to me.
I mean, it's a good storyline, but they could have done better.
Me,
there's so many better players. I'm just saying, there's so many better players.
Well, obviously, but
Corn
they
and
had to
Cola.
step up. There was no way that Starhorn Royal Club was going to get to the world final unless Corn and Cola played at their absolute best, which, yes, is still bad in, like, context of, like, the teams and the caliber that they were playing against, but that's still, like, they had
Starhorn
to show
still
up.
played the best they've ever played,
Exactly,
for sure, at Worlds.
From my perspective, if Corn isn't on a team, maybe not Starhorn Royal Club, next year it's going to be kind of depressing because he's improved so much, and I actually see him like getting significantly better over time.
No, Cola's gotten better too, but like
Cola got better, but like as Kelsey said, he lost all of his champions, and then he had to like pick up Rise last second at Worlds, and I think.
But remember that also Corn, his champion pool was like really in a good place for the World Championships though. Like all I'm saying is that you put any other player in the same environment that Starhorn World Club created, give them a star AD carry, give them a really good support, you know, jungler's okay. You would have an infinitely better team, a team that can carry on any single day. And I can think of 2 or 3 top laners, 2 or 3 mid laners, you know, members from each position on other LPL and LSPL teams that could have done a better job than Cola and Corn did throughout the LPL season and during the World Finals. So
you would still have UZI and Insect shot calling.
What do you mean? I would still have UZI and Insect.
You would still have them shot calling. Like their decision making was really bad.
Yeah, but the team fighting was worse.
They didn't. No, it wasn't. Like
the team fighting wasn't that great.
Like Samsung White has the best team fighting ever. Like seriously, I'm just saying that they didn't lose off team fighting. They lost off of how awful their decision making was. Like the fact that they almost won. They went 5 for 4 when Corn like took 10 years to get to the bottom lane in game 2, and Looper had like this beautiful equalizer. Sure, Dandy's engage was awful, but the fact that it took like Corn forever to get down there, and that like almost completely destroyed them in the fight. Like their team fighting wasn't bad, their decision making was awful. Like Corn was always late. They didn't have enough
double teleport.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, Corn was always late to the fight. They didn't have enough vision control at all. Like, Zero, I think, is one of the best players, is potentially the best player on his team for what he does. But I don't think he's a good support in a larger context because, like, his use of vision is really bad. Like, his use of, like, his spells in a team context is really bad, but all he really has to do is make sure UZI has, like, the perfect peel, and he does that really well. So in that context, Zero is, like, really good, but he's not good at, like, the larger picture thing.
You're saying if you, like, put him on a different team that he would not have the same...
He wouldn't look good, no. And I think we saw that in OGN, right? The couple of games where he played support. And he had, like,
come on, like...
disengages. No, honestly, I think Zero has developed, but I don't think that, like, I honestly think that he has developed the way he has because of UZI, but he wouldn't develop, like, I don't know. This is my feeling on Zero, and yeah, he didn't look that good in OGN, and I don't think that he's gotten to he managed, and he immediately looked good in China, right? He immediately looked good on Starhorn Rock Club, so it's not like he instantly became good, right? He just played, like, a little bit better over time, and he found a style that suits him better. That's all. Like, that's it. It's not like Zero became a god overnight, right? So...
I mean, there was... The caveat I would use is that there was a lot of time between his OGN appearance and he was also playing, like, fucking, like, jungle and stuff like that
I know, he played 2 support games, but I'm saying that, like, the difference between the support that he played in OGN and the support he played in early LPL, like, wasn't that different. It's just that he had, like, really good AD carry and he peeled really well. And he did the same thing for KT Bullets, but he was playing with, like, Score.
Yeah, Score's like the god. If Score has peel, then he's a god. Like,
and he had like a good Nami game, right? So.
Anything else?
I do.
Jackson, do you have any closing comment?
Oh, only thing about the set is I actually think it was really close to being 3-0. Like there is this. I can't remember who got caught out, but in the third game, I know that someone from White at the Baron fight got really low and flashed over the wall, which gave Uzi the ability to jump over the wall and get like perfect positioning to get reset after reset. And like they literally like lost the game off that, I feel, because they needed to like not get crushed like that in a fight in order to. Like because at the point that they were forced to turtle with that composition, there was no way they were coming back because of the lack of wave clear. So like it was like one crucial mistake that even kept Royal Club from not getting 3-0'd, I feel. I don't know if you guys remember what I'm talking about.
But I feel like that's the level of play you have to be at to get us.
It was Pawn, wasn't it?
Yeah, Pawn got caught out, and then instead of dying, he flashed over the wall, and it allowed like super fucking repositioning from Uzi, and then he just went ham all over the Baron pit, and then they won the game right there. So it was like literally down to inches that Royal Club was able to pull out a win there, I feel.
You have to hope that these teams would be able to capitalize on those mistakes, because I feel like Samsung capitalizes on those mistakes all the time. So if Starhorn Royal Club can capitalize on one of those mistakes just once, then they can win.
Yeah, for sure. In Game 3,
does it like every time, and that's the difference. So
even before that time, there was a lot of fights where like Royal Clubs like were in a favorable position, and then like Mata just helped his team like a god, and like they came out on top anyway, or came very close. Like Mata is like the king of making situations that should be like washovers, like relatively close fights. So that also didn't help Royal Club. But yeah, I was just interested that like that was like one crucial mistake that I feel kept the series from being another smash.
So the next part of our segment, I'm going to call it, like, the rumor mill.
Oh, my God.
I know. Obviously, everyone is talking about, like, all of these rumors going on, projections of where all these, you know, Korean, what the Chinese players are doing, things like that. Who's going to NA, who's going to... Like, everyone's talking about it, and it doesn't make sense for us on China Talk to not talk about what the speculation is. So I'm not asking you guys to give away sources or anything like that, and obviously nothing on this segment is confirmed. But just... From the Chinese perspective, what is the thought process on what's going on? Because everyone knows what's happening in NA and EU because it's blowing up over Reddit, over Twitter. I actually got yelled at on Twitter, like, you're tweeting too much about Chinese League of Legends during a Chinese League of Legends promo tournament. How dare you? Like, what? No, just, it was really awkward. I was like, oh, calm down, sir. No, but what's going on? Like, what's the... I can throw out names.
I don't think it's about Chinese. I think it's about Koreans.
Well, the Korean rumor mill going to China. So I've heard names like Deft, obviously Rookie, Kakao. I mean, I could throw out other names. Guys, anything?
We might as well just say Tade, right?
Yeah, Tade.
That's known.
That's the big one.
That's the really big one.
Tade, Swift.
Lyra, Kinch.
Where do you guys think that these are going? Like, what are your thoughts?
Lyra, Kinch, the former Janair support is going. The former Janair support is supposed to be going. I hear Swift might be going. So, yeah. First of all, we should say that like there be like for every rumor, there's also a false rumor, especially because on Reddit there was these shady ass agents who kind of invite Koreans and try to fuck them over or something like that, and that to a large extent
not be related to Hero.
Yeah, to a large extent that's true. I do want to say this: if what is being said about Hero is true, he should never be allowed to play another League of Legends game. He should never be allowed another team house.
Former World Elite manager.
Yeah, he's the former coach. He was fired a few days ago of World Elite. He should never be allowed into another OGN studio. And he basically should not be allowed to touch the game because.
Well, break down the situation. What are you making these statements on? Like, what is the claim?
Okay, so here's the situation. The claim, and these aren't claims; these are real. The very real situation is that there are agents approaching talented Korean players even before. And by the way, most of the players knew that about the one-team rule in Korea was coming since early March, okay? And the way I knew was that I was working at NLB at the time, and they were telling me, oh, NLB is not going to exist anymore after the next season, and that suggested to me, we might have a NAC, like a KRCS system going, run by OGN. Okay.
Okay.
So it was pretty obvious that, you know, some of these players would have to look for new teams. And what was happening was that there were these like agents who would come over and say, yo, fucking like KX Cash is going to offer Coco $8,000 a month if he comes over to Korea, right? I mean, if he comes over to China. And the most puzzling thing about these claims was that, first of all, not a lot is known about the structure behind some of these Chinese organizations, so there's nothing to verify whether the claims that these agents were making were true, that we can pay you this kind of money. Second, when a lot of these players would talk to, people at Invent, talk to people like Susie Kim, and they would reach out to, specifically the people in this group, right? And they would say, can you verify, do they have the money to do this? Do they have the money to do this? Can you talk about their reputation? And so I couldn't give that much information. But when they try to follow up with those organizations, a lot of the people at the organizations would say, no, we don't have any agent trying to reach out to Korean players, right? So apparently what the story is that there are large rumors that Hero, the former coach of Najin Black Sword, and he's now the coach. He was formerly the coach of World Elite before he got fired. And they say the reason why he was fired was because he was trying to entice or maybe even poach Korean players from organizations and facilitate under the table deals, right? Which is illegal in both the context of the law, as well as it's both illegal and non-ethical, right? So if this is true, then we all know how Koreans feel about corruption, specifically in esports. It's you don't do it, you don't do it, just please. We've had enough shit to do with corruption. Like, just it shouldn't happen, because I bet you, every time something like this happens, then SBS, our CNN goes online and says, okay, fucking games are ruining people's lives again. Fuck these people, they're so bad. Nerds suck. Ha 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 ha. Whatever. So if this is true, Hero should be banned from every kind of League of Legends esport, or any esport at all possible, because what he's doing is really scumbagish. It's incredibly.
So.
He's putting the reason why I'm saying this is because not because it's fine, you want to make deals, okay, but you're putting these players' lives at risk, or at least their future, because you're sending them to unknown locations with unknown people in an unknown country. And China's a really vast place. You can't just get help from random people. It's just really difficult.
Right? He's saying he's connected to some agents in Brazil too, right? So. Right.
Mm-hmm. So what's sketchy here, and to kind of put this into a larger context, and what's causing problems, is you have all of, basically an overview. You have someone who's approaching these players and saying, we'll pay ridiculous amounts of money to come and play for the teams. And it's do I go to, for example, do I go to NA or EU and make X amount of money? Or do I go to China where they are saying, we'll pay you $350,000, or you can have a streaming contract for $1.6 million, or things like that. Things like that. And then, and Kelsey, I kind of wanted to lead this into you, because now there's also all of this news, which it's hard to confirm because there's no bank statements of solid numbers that people can pull and make a factual argument against. It's just kind of all of this talk and these rumors and these forums going back and forth. But that streaming in China is incredibly profitable. There's a lot of streaming organizations. I mean, we have Duyu, who sponsors LGD and things like that. That
sponsors every team.
Exactly. You have these streaming contracts, which are for supposedly ridiculous amounts of money, and then how are the teams going to compete with that? How, as a professional team, do you tell a player, come play for our team, we'll pay you this amount, when the player can say, or I can sit at home in my underwear all day and I get paid this amount for just streaming?
Right.
Yeah, this is the thing. You have these players who are, because people don't want to watch streamers unless they have either a gimmick or they were once a professional player. So professional players can come to teams and they'll play for a year, and then they leave, and these streaming platforms, because there are so many streaming platforms, they're very, very competitive. And they'll offer really, really big contracts to popular players. Excuse me, my camera died or something.
Yeah, it
but,
died.
You have these really popular, willing to offer large sums of money to these players, and so that teams can retain. Okay, my webcam came back. I think.
We're waiting for mics now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that teams can retain their players, they will offer larger salaries to these players. So you have this issue where the salaries and the amounts of money that are being thrown around is constantly escalating. And eventually, and it's going to be, like, the streaming platforms aren't going to make that much money off of these players, right? Like, they're not going to make the amounts of money they're paying out.
It's a huge investment, and, like, hoping that it's going to grow. Yeah.
And probably the teams aren't going to make that much money, like, in the state that esports is at right now, aren't going to make enough money to compensate for the salaries that they're giving these players. So you're eventually going to get this bubble where the money just, like, stops coming. And so, like, the Chinese esports industry is just going to crash.
Yeah, because they're throwing money that they don't have because it's a competition between teams and streaming, and players are constantly conflicted enough they want to be a pro player or get these huge streaming contracts.
So what does that mean for the future thing? Like, we've already, because now we were talking about Star Wars World Cup, obviously that was the Korean experiment. You know, making it to the World Championship Finals, like, you're going to consider that a success. So you have all these Korean players coming over, big names, again, Def, Dade, Rookie, Kakao, things like that. Like, are these contracts true? Like, what happens when that bubble does pop? Like, what does the future of LPL look like then? What does the future of these Korean players look like then?
There's a difference between, first of all, there are a few things that we have to establish. One is that there's a difference between, like, are these contracts legitimate and in good faith, is this bubble going to pop? Like, obviously, if the contracts are legitimate and in good faith, that has no bearing on the fact that eventually the money is just going to, like, no longer, people are going to realize that this isn't the investment that they thought it was. I think that it'll still not be too bad for these Korean players, because if we're considering, like, these really large sums of money, it's still larger than these wells sort of start to dry up and they get paid less and less and less. It'll still probably be more than they could get paid elsewhere, but it's just kind of a really weird situation. And I think that there might be some issue in the pipeline, at least with DouYu, which is, like, the really, really big streaming platform. So that might cause things to slow down, which I think will be really good for the industry. So if something happens to DouYu and we have, like, some Western competitors even coming into the market, like Twitch or
Zubu.
Can we take this time to please tell Mike to turn his fucking camera on? Holy, press the button, Michael.
Yeah, Michael, press the button.
Why was it off?
Oh,
Jesus Christ.
You're totally fired.
Thank you. Okay.
I didn't realize it was
the other difference we have to make is that these aren't necessarily Korean players who are desperate to find work. If the Yo Flash Wolves had enough money to offer to these Korean players in order to bring them to fucking wherever they play, Taiwan, then they would do it. But they just don't. So these are Korean players in extremely, extremely, extremely high demand who have their pick of the litter. Besides the fact that a lot of teams in North America and or in Europe are already, not in Europe, but there are circumstances which might bar their entry into those specific markets, okay? So these are Korean players with a lot of flexibility, but they're choosing to go to China because A, they can play on Korean solo queue, B, because the money's good, C, it's not that far away from home. So let's not make the mistake in saying that these Korean players, we talked about Hero, we talked about, the potential douchebaggery that might be the former World Elite coach. That's fine, okay? By the way, a lot of former World Elite coaches have been fucking, like, can we just talk about how questionable Aaron and Hero are?
I love Aaron. No, Aaron is, like, so dedicated. I feel like his asshole is almost justified because of how dedicated he is and the fact that it actually works.
Anyways,
such a good coach.
So you can be a douchebag.
Okay.
Second, we can't make the mistake that these are players who are helpless. No, they have like the purchasing power, so to speak. They're not trying to convince us. We are trying to convince them to come to our teams.
Well,
So
it's true to an extent, and it is mostly true. Like they do have this decision, but a lot of these Korean pros are also really young and don't really understand what they're getting into. Like, like at an initial glance, it's like, all right, yeah, China has all this money. Like I'm gonna go there for money, but like a lot of this money isn't money that China like has that is sustainable. So it's also kind of risky because if things don't work out with these huge, massive investments from China, then these players are going to be screwed over, and they're not even going to be on home soil. Like that's like my main concern with these players.
I think they're going to be screwed over, but I don't think it'll be like screwed over in this way where they suddenly don't have anything. I think that'll be screwed over in a way that they'll have like less than was advertised, which isn't ideal, but at least hopefully they aren't going to get like completely destitute, and they'll still have like careers and they'll still have jobs.
Yeah, but it's working out for INSEC.
Right.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, that's why I think if you think about like Starhorn World Cup, where INSEC isn't going to be making like the huge, massive amounts of money because he's already there, and he didn't really have a choice. Like these,
that's true.
Other big names do, like the Deft, the Dade, like those big names. So I think that, yeah.
I mean, the fact of the matter is,
and he still has a career, and they still made like $250,000 off of the World Championships or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just everything's so complicated now. The fact that Dade and Deft are free agents just shook up. You can't. It's really tough when you shake up the esports world like that. Like, I don't know, Riot. Yeah. I don't know, Riot and like I don't know, just Riot collectively, OGN, Kespa, whatever. Mm-hmm. There are some. I mean, I think people deserve an explanation as to what the decision making was behind these rules.
Yeah, I agree.
And if the decision. And if it was anything besides, if the decision to make this was anything besides increasing the number of international tournaments and trying to streamline all 5 major leagues in order to more easily synchronize each setup, each system in order to facilitate the creation of these international tournaments, then there's really no fucking excuse because you've essentially ruined a very delicate ecosystem in Korea. And now they have to go to China to find work, which is it's tough. I mean, you have people relying on you, so you have to be at least maybe you don't owe it to them, but at least be
transparent.
At least be if not transparent, just at least have some emotion and explain to these people why you're putting some of these players out of work, because it's fucking like. Is Sunstar of LGIM going to find another job? Who knows? He might have to go to the army now, right? So it's people at the bottom who are hit really hard by this move, and so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, until like I guess for like a super long term investment, it's a decent decision because now new investors can get into esports in Korea and stuff. But like right now, it really really sucks and it shakes things up like really weird because China last year we had like these B tier Koreans, but like now that it's like straight up God tier Koreans, it's really
God tier Koreans.
God tier Koreans that we don't even know like how sustainable their future is. So it's like really confusing and concerning, I guess.
The thing that's doubly fucked about sorry, Kelsey. I just want to say one last thing. The thing that's like doubly fucked about the situation is that not only do you cut off some of the grassroots movements that are occurring in Korea, you've also barred their ability to enter other markets, specifically in North America and in Europe. Because now, you want to go find work, right? The thing I generally agree with.
You're talking about the region lock?
Right, the region lock, the roster lock, and the grandfather clause. I generally agree with 99% of what Riot does, okay? And I mean, it's their own company. They should direct it the way they want to. But at least be transparent. Don't talk about competitive integrity, right? Don't use the word competitive integrity if you're going to lock out other players from moving in and out of North America and Europe. So just that would be my caution. Say this is for entertainment, fine. Say this is to make more international tournaments, fine. But don't say that this is to raise the level of gameplay because it's so obviously not. And that's my non-China talk of the day.
Okay. No, I agree with that. And that's the thing is that the other reason is we have like the established LCS rules where they can't have more than one team in the LCS. You have the established, and then we have rumors that the Korean thing is moving to the one team, and a lot of these organizations are moving to one team, even if it's not going to be a mandated thing. So really the only market that these Koreans have to go to is China because they aren't moving to one team, right? They've shown no indication that they're moving to one team. In fact, OMG supposedly just bought Team RM, so they have 4 teams now. So,
is Positive Energy still even exist? Who's on that roster? Because Luca was there, but then he left.
I forget who's like literally everyone on that roster before is no longer on it.
Yeah, so
it's because of the payment scandal.
Oh, right.
Speaking
Okay.
of shitty deals.
Chinese esports. Woo.
But so that's the thing is like where now we have this OMG owns supposedly 4 teams. I don't know for sure if they acquired RM or not, but that's the situation. And I guess like they don't own Positive Energy exactly. It's like they're under different management, so the OMG managers of the OMG organization isn't directly responsible.
It's
for
like an
Positive
EG situation. Okay.
Yeah. So they aren't really responsible for Positive Energy not getting money.
I think they call it umbrella corporations.
Yeah. So like the OMG management didn't necessarily have anything to do with that.
Still going, Kelsey?
Yeah, I'm still going. But so the issue is that again, like China pretty much has this seat of power, right, where they can get all these acquisitions because they, in theory, are advertised as having like an unlimited amount of money that they can throw at these players because they do have billionaires backing them, even if it's not sustainable. So they do have money in the short term. They do have, and they are able to create like more teams in theory. So don't be surprised if you see like these big name players in LSPL or TGA, not even LPL. So like when people say that LSPL is going to be super competitive next year, it actually probably will be because we'll have like Kakao and LSPL.
So now that we're branching away, but still staying on like the topic of rumors, let's talk about the Nvidia Gaming Festival.
Oh my god!
Can we talk about how they just like shamelessly stole like fucking Riot's Worlds?
I know,
like,
right?
songs. They just like used all those songs for like
know,
everything.
right?
I found that so funny.
Who are all of those motherfuckers there? Because I think I saw some members of like Team RM or something like at the tournament. Like I know, but I know, but I thought that it was supposed to be a 4-team tournament, but I saw like 10 people. I saw like 8 different teams on the initial stage.
I think it was just different game genres. I don't think it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had like
it was because they had everything there. Like people kept messaging me like, "Why are they doing this now? Why is there such a big break?" Because it's a festival. It's like a bunch of promotion.
Right. They were playing like.
5 hours
I saw my first Crossfire game, which was interesting.
Is that the one with like the strippers? You know what I'm talking about? Like
the
nurses and like the maids. I was trying to figure out what that was. I don't know, it was some sort of knockoff of like CS:GO, and like the enemy team was all nurses.
No, you're exactly right. That's Crossfire.
Oh, is that what that is? That was crazy.
Yeah.
Crossfire is like a free-to-play with Cash App Counter-Strike, essentially, but it's very popular in China.
If any of you have ever played the Korean game that's now in the West called Sudden Attack, it's Sudden Attack.
No, okay.
And then they had like some FIFA stuff, a lot of Hearthstone.
Focus, guys. Focus.
We're talking about Nvidia.
We're almost done.
The way it's meant to be played.
It was OMG, King, World Elite, and EDG. Obviously, EDG won. Spoiler alert if you didn't see it. They pretty much steamrolled through everyone. Let's talk about OMG.
By everyone, I mean they had like.
Let's talk about OMG. Let's talk about Going as the AD carry.
And Shiny as support.
First of all,
that's not Shiny. No, that's not Shiny.
That's as his top.
No good idea starts with let's move going away from top.
So this is why people are talking about the RM acquisition, because Lua was the support from RM. So in theory, OMG right now also has the Akfun support, who's Shiny, but they didn't play him. So like Shiny and Lua are both like
Pomelo, Dada7, Cloud, lovely.
Yeah. They can make like an entire roster of support players.
6 supports.
And still have a sub. But they're supposedly trying out Lua and Shiny right now. Mm-hmm. So, and they're trying out Xiong top, not for OMG, but for OMG
G2, yeah.
See if he's viable.
The Lua guy was pretty bad. I just want to get that out.
It was pretty bad.
I agree. I think Shiny is better, from what I've seen.
I think Cloud is better.
But can you guys
Lua was at least good at not dying.
It's not going to be Cloud.
What are the projections of OMG?
Cloud's going to be the least, okay?
Cloud can be the best support in China. I don't understand.
It's like Bizarro OMG.
Like, I kind of want to, like, shoot a Twitter message to fucking TT and say, like, yo, you have potentially the best support in the world in the roster.
TT already like, stepped down on that. He already,
really?
No, TT didn't step down.
Oh, I thought he was getting pressure from the community to step down.
Well, he's being
So people have context. TT is the coach of OMG, former coach of IG.
TT's the coach of OMG. I think he might be. I don't know if he's staying on the roster. I did hear that they're probably getting a Korean coach, but on their coaching.
From my understanding that they were getting a Korean coach and that TT was getting some major heat due to OMG.
Well, TT is getting.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, TT has been getting
heat in China.
TT's been getting major heat all split, supposedly. But the thing is, TT made a statement about Cloud. Specifically about the OMG versus Starhorn Royal Club game. Cloud and Loveling were fighting the entire set. They were just, like, arguing the entire time. The third game, I don't know if you guys remember all the way back to the semifinals with OMG and Starhorn Royal Club. I remember because I remember Cloud making this engagement and going, I don't like this, this is awful, don't do this, why are you doing this?
Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah, so where he goes, it's like really late.
Why are we always fighting? Yeah, that thing.
If it was really late and they were trying to avoid fighting all game, like they were actually running the split push pretty well, they had like this huge gold lead, and if they just like kind of continued their sort of weird Twisted Fate pick, and they weren't really split pushing optimally, but they were sort of getting the job done. But instead, like, they engage straight down mid lane, and then, like, there's this huge team fight, and obviously Starhorn Royal Club has an infinitely better team fight composition, and that's why OMG picked, like, the split push, because they wanted to avoid fighting that composition in the first place. And then, like, they just get blown up, and TT said the only person who wanted that engagement was Cloud. Like, the team morale after that kind of took a hit, just things like that, so Cloud is a really good support, sure, but if the team's not going to be on the same page, that's still a problem. Dota 7 is the other problem. So it's kind of like they were juggling these two different evils, I guess. And as soon as Cloud... And it makes sense in this context, because every time we saw Cloud taken off the roster for a while and then they come back, like, that first set would be really good, and then the subsequent sets wouldn't be as good. It's because they're immediately starting to play with each other again, like, they're getting... That gel is, like, instantly clicking, and it's magic. But then after that, they're starting to fight, like, they don't want to play with each other. It's just really, I don't know.
I mean, you can tell that Cloud's not, like, the most personable person. I mean, from the videos and, like, documentaries and whatever we've seen, he doesn't look like the happy, kind of go-lucky guy, kind of, like, gel with anybody and everybody kind of guy. But this dude's talent level is fucking through the roof. He can be the next Mata. Like, he is that good, I think. Obviously, like, people have been telling me for a long time, since I said Cloud would be the next big thing. Like, no, he's not talented enough. His decision-making bad. I think Cloud is so talented. And it's really just a shame that he's just not getting along with his OMG teammates, because that's a team that could have won the World Championships if they were all on the same page. But I guess it'll never be, and now we have fucking going giving me disease on AD carry. Like,
he's saying that, he thinks that
he can carry more. Yeah, that's bullshit. Like, holy crap. Where's Sun now? So Sun's
that is
a sub?
so weird. I don't understand that mentality.
Well, they have four teams. Like, it just...
So, my estimation, like, my understanding is that they're going to try it out kind of like they tried out Uzi in the mid lane on Royal Club, right? And to see, like, how it goes. They have Sand still on the roster, but they're looking for... My understanding is if they're making some bids on some top laners, and if they don't get the top laners they want, Sand will probably come back for AD carry and we'll go back top. So, yeah.
So
and they're not Korean. They're not Korean tops because they're not going to pick up Koreans on their main roster.
Going and AD carry is so bad. And they put him on Tristana too, and I was like, oh my god, please.
So let's talk about an even worse roster.
An issue of him trying to...
Oh my god, an even worse roster.
Let's talk about an even worse roster, and we're going to talk about World Elite right now.
I still think Old B is not bad. I still think Old B is a good player.
The roster for World Elite that they showed...
That moment where he was getting, like, chased around his own jungle.
Hold on a second. We're gonna list the roster first of all. The
no,
roster
I don't want to hear it.
Was Aluka top, Old B jungle. It's Ninja in the mid lane. Your AD carry
Candy.
It's Love Candy, formerly Alan of World Elite Academy. He was the guy before SMLZ was on the team. And their support, possibly the strongest player of their team, is good old Conan.
Oh god, I didn't even think about it like that. And this team beat OMG in the first game, by the way.
Beat the going AD carry.
Okay. Well, Go-Going mispositioned heavily during that game, so that was Go-Going's quirky game.
He mispositioned really hard that game, and like Xiang tried relentlessly, and World Elite still like almost lost that. It was terrible. They had like a 10,000 they had a 5,000 gold lead for like 20 minutes, and they couldn't make it smaller. And then OMG got that Baron and closed it to like 2,000.
Break down where these players come from. Who are these players? Like, go down the roster for me.
Aluka was on Positive Energy top laner.
Yep.
He was on the awful roster that Name and Sika had to like hard carry.
Yeah,
and then Aluka he was on the roster after that. So.
Okay, now we're at Old B.
That good.
The thing about Aluka for me is that he's actually pretty good in the 1v1s. It's just that he literally has no pressure outside of the 1v1s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he can't convert any leads that he gets.
Go
if you guys don't mind, I can talk about Old B.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, Old B used to be, the joke is around here among people who watch OGN is that Old B single-handedly got not one, but two players into the LPL because he was on the Prime Optimus team that a lot of people fell in love with during OGN Winter. And the reason why that team became famous is because that was right after the AHQ Promise scandal, and Old B and his team Prime Optimus actually beat SK Telecom T1S in order to set up a tiebreaker between S and K, in which K won. And one of the reasons why that game was really interesting was because that was one of the first times we had seen in Korea the 4v0 meta working out really, really well. And Old B was one of the, I think Old B was really one of the keys to that game because this guy was moving around the map. He was where he needed to be. The other jungler was Horo at the time. Horo became really predictable, and Old B read him like a buck. This guy was fighting correctly. This guy was making picks. His Elise was wonderful. He was just playing so well. I do really think highly of Old B, and I think that he can develop into not a superstar, but into a solid B+, to a solid A-class player in the future, a standard OGN level jungler in the mold of Chaser, in the mold of Horo, in the mold of maybe someone like Bengi, maybe. So I think that Old B can be really, really good. And yeah, and the two players that, of course, I was referring to before, the two players that he got into the LPL were, of course, the top laner was...
also known as Han Labong.
Yeah, Han Labong.
And Ninja.
And the mid laner, Ninja for World Elite. So, yeah. I mean, Old B is really, really good. And it's not a surprise to see him in China to follow his Prime Optimus teammates. And actually, there's a rumor that the AD carry for that team was Zetjin, I think. And Zetjin might be playing for SK Telecom T1K. So... a lot of the members of that team are going to cool places. I might be wrong. Zetjin might have been Storm.
Old B's not like an S tier jungler, but I actually think it's fair to say that he's the strongest on the team and not Conan, to be honest.
Rude. Conan got the Baron steal. Where was Old B?
Oh my god.
Yeah, but I don't know. If we're talking about the context of their careers, like, I guess it makes more sense that Conan is not as good.
The thing about Old B, like the first game I saw him, and I felt like he single-handedly carried that game against OMG because like.
Was that the Cho'Gath mid game?
Yeah, that was the Cho'Gath mid game, and he was gaining really well.
Made me want to buy an Nvidia card.
He made Ninja snowball against Cool, which. Can someone ward for Cool? Because I swear that guy should just expect to be camped like every game. Just expect that you're gonna get, especially if you're playing Twisted Fate. Like this drives me crazy because he'll always feed when he's playing Twisted Fate because if that guy can get an inch, he'll take over the game. So everyone camps him, and it's like he just doesn't expect it. He's just like, oh sure, I'm playing Twisted Fate. Put a ward down. For the love of God.
I think the biggest tragedy about that Twisted Fate game is that when Cool had a team, his Twisted Fate was like art. Like you would see Cool coming in, fucking going, Dr. Mundo teleporting the right way, Cloud with a perfect initiation, San winging around to get a nice flank, like Loveland just going ham, and it looked so pretty whenever Cool played Twisted Fate in the past, and now it's just broken. It's just like it seems uninspired. The team fighting is shitty.
I'm not even talking about that.
It's just teams have adjusted and he hasn't.
No, like, I know, but Twisted Fate is representative of that problem. I think.
Yeah.
It's very representative of what OMG used to look like and what they look like now, and perhaps will continue to look like in the foreseeable future.
If they keep their roster like that.
Yeah, keep their roster.
I'm gonna give them a chance if they pick up a top laner who's not Xiang. And they like Shiny. I think they should try do Shiny instead of Lua. I'm gonna give them a chance if they do that because I think that, like, I really hated it. I remember when they moved Loveling to jungle from support, and I was like, why would they do that? He's a really amazing support player, like probably the best support player in China, and then he moved him to jungle, and I was like, why would they ever move him back? Like, why isn't he always just jungling? So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because they've made a lot of really weird moves in the past that I've questioned, but that have seemed to like mysteriously work out.
And we
but
can't
I'm just...
forget that everyone in China is pretty much an AD carry. Like, no matter what position you play, you're an AD carry.
And he had some, like, good moments. Like, his Ezreal was pretty decent. And then, like, he had some interesting outplays. And I think it's just, like, he's still trying to play like his champion is melee. And that's the problem. So it's, like, stuff that he can correct. But, yeah, I don't like it right now, obviously. I really, really don't like Xiong top. Like, they cannot play with Xiong top. And I don't think they will. I think they might play with Xiong top in OMG 2, but they definitely won't for OMG. And if they can't get one of the top laners they want, I'm pretty sure they're going to move going back. But, yeah. So that's the story on that from my perspective.
Do you guys want to talk about EDG and King?
Just to close out on the World Elite roster, basically shit tier players on every single level except Old B. Ninja's okay. He's just okay. Conan's a bad player. Carries Conan's a bad player.
Please.
Candy, we're not even gonna joke about that. Conan's a bad player.
Maybe in season 5 they'll like emphasize roaming again to like just walk to the mid lane.
I was just about to bring that up. Conan is incredibly good at roaming. He's probably
on Braum. He roams
Leona.
on Braum.
Leona and Braum.
Oh, right, Leona.
And his Vel'Koz support. He's really good at roaming, but his mechanics in the 1v1 or the 2v2 lane are just, like, awful. Like, you cannot lane with Conan because he just has no idea how to create pressure. If you just let him run around the map, though, with the jungler, like, he just steamrolls over people. So that's the one thing that I will say about Conan.
And apparently he can steal Baron with...
And he can steal Baron.
World Elite sucks.
No, okay.
They're gonna be a bottom 4 team.
Can I just say, like, all last year I was so excited to watch like every Edward Gaming versus World Elite game, even though Edward Gaming won most of them, just because of the storyline, and it was so cool. And we had like Salmei and Wei Xiao against Clear Love and SCCF, and I was watching it. I was watching it now, and the only way I could make myself excited about that was by imagining like Wei Xiao pulling Clear Love and FCCF aside at the start of the game, being like, "Murder them." Destroy them.
Yeah, seriously, like the storyline is not there for the team anymore.
It was gone now.
Boring.
Like, the players are bad, the team isn't good, the storyline.
It's so sad, right? Like this team that has the legacy of being like possibly the strongest team in the world for a while, and just like not losing any games for like 6 months or something, and now there's this. Now there's this. Like, oh my god.
The second most dominant team in the history of the game, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh my god, like can you imagine just SKT didn't like end up good, but they don't have like
Can you imagine M5 just turning into Gambit and then suddenly they lose all of their players? It's something like that.
Fair enough, but dude, like World Elite to me stands more like a beacon of a best team in the world that happened, and so just seeing them in their current state is like honestly depressing.
It's really depressing. It's like
it's really depressing.
Honest, for like people who like can't relate, it's like if TSM dropped all their players. And then, well, like they already have, and then and then brought in for top lane. They brought in like who's the top lane that we know?
You'd have to like really grab.
We brought like for top lane, we brought in like Cruiser the Bruiser. Jungle, we brought in like Zuna. ADK, we brought in Zuna. Like support, we brought in Zuna. Like just we bring in like all these like not that good players into these random roles, and so yeah. It's pretty bad.
It's really weird.
Can we talk about Team King though? Because that's my new favorite team.
Someone wants us to talk about Name real quick before we move on.
Okay, let's talk about EDG. Because
what do you know? Name showed up when it wasn't Worlds again.
Yeah, his Tristana was so good. His Tristana was so, like the way he would like go into team fights. Like he was so aggressive. I was like, where is this aggressiveness?
I
was like, where was this aggressiveness during the World Championships? Where were these setups? Like, come on.
Love was so good too. Like he was in Old B's jungle, like. Killing Kazakhs with Jarvan.
Every single
when
time
does
he
this
saw
ever happen?
Old B, he killed him. Like, Clearlove didn't gank a single time during the entire World Tournament. You just watched the game, he was suddenly, like, 2v1 behind enemy tower, like, kills the enemy jungler, and then, like,
he was
always dives.
He was, like, behind 30, he was behind, like, 10 farm, but he was 2-0-2, and Old B was, like, 0-2. It was so good. It's like, what is going on? Why is this guy here? Why is he not like?
Oh my god.
Clearlove makes Shook look like a bedrock of consistency. Like, I'll say that right now.
Not that, because Clearlove is like consistently bad in like games that matter, whereas Shook was like up and down.
No, I feel like because Clearlove can be really good in games that matter, right? That's what we.
Well, yeah, in the playoffs. When he
yeah.
got ranked 20th by Kelsey Moser and Taylor Cook in crew.
I did not vote during that set. Okay, I wrote the board.
Taylor, this fucking guy, Cook. Big shoutouts to him. I'm a big
fan. You know that if
fan.
I had voted, like Go Going would be like number 1, and he was number 17. So that's evidence that I didn't vote at all, right?
Oh my god!
Shout out to Taylor Cook, my guy. He's my guy.
I'm so glad that Go Going showed up at Worlds though. But yeah, that's side
people
topic.
got to witness the Go Going. Anyways, EDG
showed up finally. Like
right. The rumor is that if we're talking about EDG in general, maybe not specifically for NGF, the rumor is that Deft is going to EDG. And those rumors stemmed from what the owner of Edward Gaming or the manager for Edward Gaming said on his Weibo. Maybe Kelsey, you want to talk about that specifically?
And I can talk about it. Apparently, the media manager denied it later. So, like, the management of EDG is denying that they're acquiring Deft. The other rumor is actually that OMG is acquiring Deft.
Right. Deft is going to China, though. Like, that's
denied
confirmed.
That they're acquiring Deft, and I'm pretty sure, like, the OMG is not going to put a Korean on their main roster. Like,
it's very important to OMG to have Chinese players.
Except for in OMG 2, they have a couple
yeah, but they're, like, making, like, a separate team for it.
Yeah.
And then
that said, if they traded Name for Deft, I mean, EDG might still be in the exact same.
Yeah,
it would literally be the exact same team.
It's like trading for a Name clone, like
except Deft is
slightly Name clone that actually shows up at Worlds though.
Yeah, Name clone that shows up at Worlds.
Even though, like honestly, I feel like Deft had really mediocre games too that everybody just decided to ignore.
He had like high points though.
I
Like
swear
he was
to
kind
God.
of like lower on his spectrum, but he would like occasionally play quirky and like play out of his mind.
He still did more damage than any other person in this.
Yeah, he was really good. But yeah,
that's
Nami didn't show up at Worlds. But god damn it, he slumped for fucking Worlds and then shows up at Nvidia Game Festival. Like what the fuck?
Oh my god.
God, that's so annoying. It's so annoying because nobody's ever gonna believe he's a good carry now because of freaking Worlds.
I know, we're gonna
wait, Kelsey, you were talking about this earlier.
Year.
So annoying.
Name, how many events did EDG win over the course of the year? Like what? They lost IEM Shenzhen.
That's literally it. They've lost Worlds and IEM Shenzhen of the tournaments that they participated in.
Of the 2 tournaments, EDG has dominated every single one, but yet they're a shit team. They're awful. Like Name is a shit.
They obviously only dominate Chinese teams. Come on. Chinese teams suck.
Yep, obviously.
Right?
It's so annoying.
That's the story.
This is a great segue. I'm glad that you said Chinese teams suck because we're going to talk about Chinese scrims.
Yeah. We literally witnessed Chinese scrims this weekend.
Yeah,
guys.
so let's give me the mentality and the thought process and kind of the perception or rumor around Chinese scrims and what happens there.
Everyone I've talked to who's witnessed a Chinese team, like an LPL team scrimming, so not so much the LSPL teams, but the LPL teams scrimming, and then I've also seen like a couple of leaked scrims online from teams, is that like the better they are in LPL, and I guess the exception supposedly is EDG, but the better they are in LPL, the less seriously they take scrims, and like they just try to give up the least amount, and learn the most from their opponent. Yeah. So that's kind of the mentality going in, and it's like OMG throughout Season 3 and this is how like I think they decided to move leveling, is that they would just swap players around in scrims. Like that's how little they took scrims seriously, is they would swap players around to quote-unquote give their players more overall game knowledge and stuff like that. And it was just so pretty much we watched an OMG scrim because they swapped Going into AD carry.
To give people a little bit of context, teams like Cloud9 and TSM and like Fnatic were spanking Chinese teams at scrims like during the World Championships, like that period. So,
and that's why they said like that they were really surprised that OMG beat Not in White Shield because they didn't do well in scrims. But the thing is that like Chinese teams do not care about scrims, so Chinese teams will always surprise Western fans because the Western teams will always say that the Chinese teams are not a threat after scrims because they don't take it seriously. And everyone says the same thing about LMQ too, right? Like everyone says that they were surprised that LMQ did well in LCS because they literally just play scrims like it's a free-for-all kill or be killed, right? So it's not just like these Chinese teams.
Speaking of the rumor mill that we did miss, we missed LMQ. LMQ's roster is pretty much empty right now.
Vasily, Arena,
Ackerman, Moore, No Name are all kind of up in the air. So do you guys want to address some of the rumors there in relations to China?
It'll be interesting when Vasily comes back
has,
to.
Like 5 offers.
Yeah, it'll be interesting when Vasily comes back to China, and we're gonna see where on the spectrum he stands in terms of 80, like pure raw 80 carry strength or raw mechanical play.
If he does really well, he'll be an NA 80 carry. Watch. Yeah,
I mean, because he was the best in North America. Besides Sneaky, you could definitely make an argument that either Sneaky was better than Vasily, and or that Alltech has more talent than Vasily, which I think I can agree on both counts. But Vasily was near the top for North American play. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how he compares in China. As for Ackerman, I think Ackerman can be competitive in China. I think he definitely has a few strengths, and he definitely has a few weaknesses, but we can say that about every single Chinese top laner.
As long as he doesn't play like he did in the NA playoffs.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't play like that.
It was so bad.
Or he did in Worlds.
Yeah, Worlds wasn't great either, but NA playoffs was like a new level of fucking terror bad for that guy. It was like,
can I do my Ackerman rant?
Okay, she hates Ackerman, and I like Ackerman.
I don't hate Ackerman. It just bothers me that there's this weird conception stemming from Season 3 Worlds that Ackerman was the best Renekton player in China. Ackerman wasn't the best Renekton player in China. It was just literally his best champion, like, by a huge margin. So that's why they would ban it against him. Not because he was the best Renekton player. You can't say that anyone is the best Renekton player in China when who isn't go-going, when go-going is, like, all-time 27-3 on that champion. Like, that's the way it is. There's my Ackerman rant. He is not the best Renekton player in China. He was never the best Renekton player in China. We are done now. Okay.
Okay. Team King.
Stats roll.
Go.
Team King. I've been hyping this team up for a long time. Unfortunately, they lost the exact same way they lost to EDG the exact same way they did in Demacia Cup, which kind of broke my heart. Namely, you blah blah blah, win early game. Lonely, the jungler, does some pretty dumb shit, and then they lose. Yeah. So let me break down Team King. Team King is kind of like, they're like the new World Elite Academy in that, like, we hype them up. You know, for American fans, there are new Quantic Gaming, like the Cloud9 Quantic Gaming, not the Korean Quantic Gaming. And so this team is really, really good. They've been looking really good in a bunch of different tournaments. They're the team that supposedly made Uzi rage quit and try to quit the Season 4 World Championships. There are a lot of accounts, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
This team, on a player-by-player basis, has a lot of talent. And just to go over it really quickly, because I'm going to be talking about a lot of these guys in the future, if in the future episodes of China Talk want to come on. Top laner, Sky. I think this guy has the potential to be the best in China. Like, Sky, the way I liken Sky to Koro, because I find their Aurelia play pretty similar, but the way Sky operates is that, like, Sky is not only dominant in team fights, he's dominant in lane as well. His teleport usage is extremely good. You know, seems to communicate well from what I see. Just a really, really solid top laner. Definitely, I think, you know, I was talking with Inside Chinese Law,
Aurelia,
new Twitter.
right?
What?
Yeah. And Aurelia is the big thing, too.
Yeah, and Aurelia is the big thing.
They had to ban Aurelia the first game, and then Young played it the second game, and then he destroyed them with it in the third game.
So Aurelia is the big champion, and he Sky also played a lot of Akali, which I like to see. And I was talking with Inside Chinese Law, and he actually said that he didn't think that Sky was great, and specifically that Sky's champion pool was a weakness. I think that Sky can be extremely good, better than Koro, maybe possibly better than Go-Going. Their mid laner is JS. I'm not a huge fan of JS, but I know that there are LSPL fans who do really like JS. He's another carry mid laner. Plays, you know, he's just another good Chinese mid laner. AD carry and support. So the bottom lane, I actually don't like talking about No Heart, the AD carry, and Lei, the support, separately, because to me that this duo lane is really a unit that operates together, because I really like them when they're operating together. No Heart is pretty good. He's not an all-star AD carry by any means, but I think he and Lei, like the way they operate in team fights, Lei takes a very much like a zero approach. You know, he kites for his AD carry really well. You know, he was the best Morgana in the LSPL. Morgana was really, really, really good. And, you know, because Chinese don't play Morgana or whatever. And then, I mean, that bottom lane was really good. Now, let's talk about Lonely. I have a few issues with this guy because, first of all, I don't think he's really good, like, mechanically or in team fights. And second of all, he doesn't seem to know what to do when he's behind, and he doesn't seem to know what to do when he's ahead, which is a problem because as a jungler, you're supposed to facilitate your lanes and try to get your lanes snowballing, you know, back in the winning direction, right? For at least for the NGF tournament, the Team King would purposely give kills to Lonely, as of saying like, "Yo, come on, you're on this Rengar, like we'll give you a kill or two." I think he went like 3-0 in the early game, and they're like, "Come on, like we're giving you all the shit you need. Just carry us, snowball the game, go duel clear love, go do your thing." And then they lost to EDG. So I don't know. I do think that Lonely does need a lot of work in order to become a solid LPL player. Not that the LPL... Actually, I was about to say the LPL is not renowned for its jungle players, but then we have Cacao coming in, so that might change soon. But yeah, not that the talent pool for the LPL is all that, you know, great. And of course, we have to remember that solo queue is very different from competitive jungling. So maybe we'll see something from Lonely that we just haven't seen in the LSPL and or the NGF, but I remain unconvinced that this guy can help carry Team King to a first place spot in the LPL, and that's why I have my reservations about this team. Alternatively, I thought Soas was a god back in the day, like Love A&J was a god back in the day, and look where World Elite Academy ended up. So I'm like a shitter.
This is my feeling on King, is that I think that they're really young, so they're really inconsistent. So like, they're a pretty young team. Snake is a pretty young team, so I see these teams, like, doing well in, like, a couple of years with these players, because the teams probably won't stay together because that's how League of Legends works. But I see that these players being on, like, really strong teams in the future, but right now I feel like they're too young and too inconsistent, which, by the way, supposedly OMG, like, doesn't win scrims against King, period, and look, they won a scrim against them. They won a game. Woo! Look,
yeah.
Go.
Yeah, and OMG winning a game with that roster against King is also making me a little on the fence about how King will do.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, but again, like, I feel like NGF, you can't really count any of these results for anything because they were just completely, like, all the games were so... Like, everyone will watch this after Worlds, people who don't typically watch China just because it's the first Chinese tournament, and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, Chinese teams are shitters, TSM and Cloud9 totally should have been in the finals." Yep. That's my feeling on it.
Good feeling.
Yeah. Good feeling.
Can we talk about Inox, please?
Why do you want to talk about Inox? This is China talk, not Inox talk. Well,
I feel like Inox is a really good player with a lot of potential, so maybe he'll come over to China one day, perform.
Maybe.
That was so random.
Yeah,
I was reading chat and I was like,
yeah, LSPL teams are like, I'm still gonna be unconvinced until I actually see them in the LPL, and I do think King will perform better than World Elite Academy eventually. Like, maybe not right away, but
no,
I don't know, man.
Right away.
I don't know, man. Maybe. I still think Young Glory is going to be the best of the LSPL rise-ups.
I think Young Glory is like, Inside China Wall doesn't think YG is going to make it back in. Come on.
No way, dude.
Come on.
No way. Young Glory is going to do decent.
Diangoon, I'm going to say this right now.
So
Diangoon's testicles are way too big to allow him
Inside
to
China Lol doesn't like Diangoon. He said, like, he was a really good top laner, now he's just a mid laner. Have you watched these games?
Young Glory is the smartest, worst team.
If you watch the highlight videos, those little music videos that they show where it, like, has all, like, the highlights, like, 50% of those clips are Diangoon just doing, like, crazy shit. Like
styling on people.
Yeah, exactly. Just, like,
so
2v1ing and, like, double killing and walking away. The guy is so good.
So good. Like, whenever someone, like, asks me, like, yo, if you make a team out of the next talent, you get Wayless, right? No, fuck Wayless, man. I love him to death. I predicted that Wayless would be good. But yeah, Wayless top.
Do Wayless
But
top, Dian
let's
Goon mid.
bring this mofo Dian Goon into the mix. World Elite Dian Goon. Make it happen, gentlemen. This guy is so good. He doesn't even practice. He just streams all the time. He just streams like he's a huge fan base.
That's all anyone on that team does. And then they come out and they like 2-0 World Elite.
That's the funny thing. Is there like these individual like streamers, and then they have the best like some of the best team play for lower rated teams and picks and bans. It's like what? I don't understand anything anymore.
I think the Chinese picks and bans improved a lot like over the past Worlds as well. So.
I want to close it up because we've been on for a while. So the last thing that I want to talk about is upcoming events, specifically the expansion tournament, what that entails, if you guys can like briefly gloss over that, Demacia Cup, things like that. Because obviously like every other league is pretty much like done and we're like in this transfer period, but like China is still going strong. So Kelsey, Drexen, come on guys.
Well, I know that right now obviously the Nvidia Cup push has just ended. Like this morning.
We need to talk about NEST is going to be.
There's NEST, which actually has 8 teams, and it's like probably the biggest like actual bracket style mix of LPL and LSPL teams, because you have OMG, IG, EDG, and World Elite, and then you also have 4 amateur teams. Snake. Is it the main Snake lineup? It is Snake, right? Snake, Team King, and then World Elite Academy, and then some other. Well, I don't remember the last team.
Snake Q is their name.
Let me check. Yeah, a team called Ray Union or something.
Ray knocked out. Ray actually knocked out Starhorn. So.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I remember. Yeah, that's so funny. Since.
Sorry, we're talking about the expansion tournament.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about.
We're talking about
where this random team called Ray Union knocked out the world finalist Starhorn Royal Club, so they couldn't participate in the tournament.
What?
Hangong Club, dude.
How were they knocked out by?
They got knocked out by this team I've literally never heard of.
Right. They've played in, like, they got knocked out in, whatchamacallit? Something. Anyway, they got, in Demacia Cup, they got knocked out by someone.
So there's that tournament. Demacia Cup starts in, what, November?
Demacia Cup is going to be in December, on December 11th, and then they have the LPL promotion is going to be November 28th and 29th.
And the LPL is expanding to 12 teams.
12 teams.
Yep. So LCS
are we doing favorites?
That's going to be fun research.
We're going to say it's going to be the 3rd through 8th place LPL team against the Young Glory and World Elite Academy. Is going to be a bracket.
LSPL team, not LPL team.
So, I'm gonna kill you guys.
3rd through 8th plus LSPL team.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kill you guys to shoutouts. So, we're gonna start with Hubo. Hubo shoutouts.
Shout out to Inside Chinese Law. Go follow that Twitter. It's growing rapidly. I mean, really good information, and he's not just like a random fan either. Like he has actual connections that matter. So.
Well, he's watching. He's on the NGA board.
Yeah.
He's just reporting the rumors that show up. Like he's not. Keep in mind, he wants to stress that he's not just reporting news and confirmed stuff. He's reporting rumors.
Right.
And I think that, like, I respect that he's being very honest and open about the fact that these are rumors, and he's not saying, like, breaking news, and he's not trying to spread misinformation. So I applaud that.
Okay. Anyways, what else? I just lost my train of thought. Oh, shout outs to a Twitter user named Yume. Or King of Kimchi. I hanged out with him. Found out that he was not Asian, so it was a big surprise. I thought I was going to get kidnapped, but thankfully I wasn't. And my 3rd shout-out is shout-outs to OnGamers, I guess. I don't know. As many of people know, I went into a self-imposed exile to clean up my behavior and try to enter Riot's rehabilitation program that has done wonders for players, famous personalities such as Nuke Duck and TSM Mithy and Incarnation and XJ9. So
you literally flipped off the webcam twice. I see the rehabilitation went well.
So I'm off the bad stuff. I'm clean now, and I think hopefully I'll be on for next week and for many weeks after that. Also, just as an organizational thing, shout out to Gamers too. So.
Drexen?
Shout out to the panelists too. I haven't seen for like 2 weeks, and you go for more than that. It's
I haven't seen you.
Fun talking. I think the show was like kind of a little weird because Yeah, it's been a little while, but
It's been like 2 weeks.
yeah, it's been a little bit, so we've been a little bit shaky. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, I don't really have too many shoutouts. I'll just shout out to you guys and then the viewers watching. Thanks for tuning in, even if you guys still think that brackets are why China's consistently second place every year.
No Thorin, dude. Sorry we don't have Thorin, by the way. Like,
yeah.
Rest in peace, man.
We'll see.
Here are my shoutouts on gamers. Shoutouts to Nilu for putting up with my shit lately. Shoutouts to the OMG Esports Twitter. Speaking of Twitters, you should follow OMG Esports. They just came out with the first part of their Worlds documentary, which is essentially Pomelo wandering around and talking about how he thinks OMG is going to win, and like that's the part one is their first day, so they just get dumpstered. But it's a really fun documentary to watch, and like Pomelo has like a kind of cool personality-ish.
Yeah, actually.
So, yeah. Follow OMG Esports' Twitter, and also check out On Gamers for more content.
And I'm going to close it up then. Again, huge thank you to all of our panelists for coming onto the show. This is going to be the time slot that we will try to keep to add some consistency to our viewership. I don't know. We may move it as LPL starts up again to either be before or after LPL, so it's kind of like this entire 7-hour span of just China through your bloodstream, but otherwise, yeah, I think that's it. What? Everyone wave, guys.
China bloodstream.
China bloodstream. Wave. I said wave.
Man, so fucking picky.